Greetings and welcome to another episode of Bermuda's Feel Good Early Morning Show. Good day, Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Adiana's Restaurant. I'm Terry Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert, and we want to thank you for getting up bright and early with us on this Tuesday morning. Jack, how are you feeling? It is the last week in March, in case you didn't realize.
You know what's crazy? Last year this time it was still January.
I don't think it was Tuesday.
It was. January was so long. January, February last year. Last year, Drake. And now look at us. It's almost summertime. Carnival's about to happen. Cup match is about to happen. Good Friday is basically next week.
I mean, yes, April is this week Friday. So, yes, Good Friday is just but 2 weeks away. And as you can see, as always, Jack and I ready to bring you some feel good vibes this morning. And we want to remind you, if you're watching this episode, wherever you're watching it, make sure you take a minute to share it so that other people can join this conversation because we don't have one of, we have Bermuda's first neuropsychologist, Dr. Samantha O'Bannon, is backstage, and she's going to be joining us to talk to us all things brain related. And I think it's interesting because, Jackie, you and I talk about mental health and mental wellness a lot, but we don't really dive into the science behind the brain and what really triggers us and all of that stuff. So I'm really excited to have Dr. Sam on to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But before we get into that, as you know, Jack and I have a trend report for you. And we had one originally planned, but the Oscars happened over the weekend, and Black Twitter, all of social media has been reeling with the memes, with the opinion pieces, the thought pieces, and everything in between about the Oscars. So, in case you didn't know, the Oscars happened on Sunday, and I think most people that were watching it thought it was just going to be the regular smegular Oscars. They're going to try to do the diversity campaign. They're going to try their best to make sure, that there's equity and equality. And I think I didn't watch it, but from what I could tell, they were doing a decent enough job. And then the controversy happened. So Chris Rock was the host, and he's a comedian, and comedians tend to have off-color jokes every once in a while. And it got to a point where Chris Rock was actually talking about Jada Pinkett Smith, who has come out to say she has apalachia, which is a hair loss condition. It's autoimmune disorder, which results in massive hair loss. And, the way most people deal with it, or the way Jada is dealing with it, is by cutting off her hair. And so Chris Rock made a joke about her looking like G.I. Jane. And it was interesting because at first it looked like we was laughing. And then his whole demeanor changed, and then he went up and appeared to slap Chris Rock. And ever since then, social media has been a buzz with whether they agree with Will Smith or whether they don't agree with Will Smith. So our question of the morning to you, or our feel good question, is: do you feel like Will Smith overreacted to the joke? Do you think that it was just, a joke? A jokey joke, as Jack likes to call them, or do you think he maybe stepped over the line? I'll let Jack go first as we let the audience come in to the conversation.
Well, for the longest while, I thought that it was staged. I mean, I still kind of think it's staged. I'm still waiting for something to come on. It's just like, oh yeah, these guys are friends. They staged it. A new movie's coming out, whatever the case may be. Like, I'm still waiting for that, that title drop to say, oh, told you guys. But to know that Jada has been dealing with alopecia for years now. She came out, I think it was last year, when she finally shaved her head. Apparently Willow, her daughter, must have told her it's time to let it go, be bold, be you, be brave. So she's embracing this in her 50s, and to know that she's been struggling, forget, they're humans as well. People keep forgetting that they're celebrities are humans. They have feelings. They've been struggling through stuff. We have had a microscope on this couple for so long. So I think that at some point you're gonna understand that if you keep poking the bird, what's it? You keep poking the bird, you got the claws. Or was it the teeth?
I don't know, but either way, claws or teeth, I'm scared.
He definitely got pawed.
He put them paws on him.
I think everybody needs to take a step back and realize that they probably would have done the same thing. Had it been, obviously ours would have been smaller scale, but if somebody keeps making fun of your woman, apparently this is years in the making of Chris Rock coming for Jada at award ceremonies or making fun of her. I think at some point it's tired. There's all those people that you could have picked on and cracked jokes about, and you choose the person that is dealing with something that they can't control and that just came out saying that they're struggling with it. Do I think Will overreacted? I go back and forth with it. because I'm like, you couldn't wait to the after party
What, to
like,
make the joke or just in general?
to deal with it. Like, you could have been up to
Oh, okay,
like,
got you.
this is a warning, but you also don't know what's happened before. He probably could have warned him a few times and been like, next time it's on. And
Next time I see you, it's on site.
it's like, people keep
On
forgetting that
site.
Twitter fingers is only for Twitter. If you keep cracking those jokes right in front of me,
I will say, as
you're
I see
not
some
that far
audience,
away.
I see some audience comments coming in, and I just wanted to mention that there was another comedian. So there was like a group of women that were also like doing, I guess, like some of the like pre-award show, the red carpet stuff, like some
Mhm.
other things related to the Oscars. And another comedian made a joke about Will and Jada's relationship, not necessarily Jada specifically. And I thought it was interesting because that person hasn't gotten any flack, as much flack, as Chris Rock. Mind you, this person I would assume is not as big as Chris Rock, and there was no like slap to that person. So there was like no real scene around it. Whereas with the slap on stage in front of people and then Will Smith cursing him out, it's like there was so much to kind of focus on the Chris Rock joke. But making jokes about people is not new to any award show. Like, this is not the first time it's happened. And it's probably not the first time it's happened with someone with an illness. It's probably just, I don't know, Will had enough.
I don't
So
think it's the first time that somebody. I think it's the first time somebody has actually physically gone up on the stage and wrung somebody. But I don't think it's
yes.
the first time. People, not everybody takes jokes well, and you don't like. My thing is how many times can you take a joke before you're just like, you know what? This isn't a joke anymore. There's something deep rooted that you don't like about me, or I thought we was cool, but you keep picking at me. Well, obviously, because like, you know how they say jealousy is, or there's truth in jest,
Mm-hmm.
or truth in a joke. Like, you're telling me that you don't have no animosity towards me, but you're always coming for me.
Yeah. Let me bring in some audience comments. So Misha Fabulous says the joke had layers. Demi Moore played G.I.G. and she left her husband Ashton Kutcher for a younger man. Oh, so Jada dating, but August Alsina is like a non-factor at this point. Like, he's a moot point. Like, it's really,
But
for me,
she never
age
really
is
left him. He was an addition to their relationship, and Will was cool with it.
apparently,
Apparently.
because I don't even think we know the full story. Like, even when they did the Red Table Talk, I really feel like I didn't learn anything more or less about their relationship.
I don't know. I feel like male's ego won't allow that. Like, you're gonna say in front of the world that you're okay, but behind closed doors, we ain't all right.
And you see me memes where his eyes were like watering a bit, and he's like, that was the real Will.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do get it though. I do get that the joke had layers. So it's maybe not just about her hairstyle, but as Bisha pointed out, her dating a younger guy. However, I still feel like I didn't catch that because I didn't even, to me, August Alsina and Jada's relationship was it
I
didn't
don't know.
happen.
I'm different, but I just feel like my reasoning is eventually it's going to be an overreaction to somebody, but you can't keep telling people how to react when you're constantly disrespecting them. So that's like somebody constantly pushing me, and then I turn around and I smack the crap out of them, and you're like, oh my god, you went too far, you didn't have to hit them back. Who are you to tell me how to react? Like,
Yeah.
what would you do? Oh, I probably would have hit him. Well, then, there you go. Like, what would you have done if somebody was making fun of your wife? And yes, a lot of people, we laugh at the jokes. We got dark humor, especially as the darker skin. I feel like we have the darker humor because, we laugh at
That's
our.
how a lot of us get by. I
Yeah,
want to bring in this
yeah.
comment from Asha. She says, I think Will stepped over the line. Yes, he was right to be mad, but he shouldn't have physically assaulted Chris. And she goes on to say that Chris said he didn't know Jada had alopecia. I don't think it excuses his joke, though. Personally, I don't think it excuses his joke. Because I find that hard to believe. Like, I personally find that hard to believe. But maybe that's because I follow Jada. But actually, I don't even follow Jada, but I do remember her. I do remember seeing things where she has spoken out about it. So I think, I don't know. Clearly, they're not friends. They can't be friends because there's no way your friend doesn't know your wife has an illness like that.
I don't know how people don't know Jada doesn't have it. Like, everybody.
She's so loud.
Table. Everybody watches Jada's Instagram, and celebrity to celebrity. You have a team. You can't tell me that you made all those jokes and you didn't run them by anybody. Like,
that's what I was just gonna say. I was like, I wonder, did he
That's why I thought it was staged.
put
So I'm
these
just like,
jokes out?
you're telling me, and like Will's reaction was delayed. Like I feel like it was staged. Like, oh crap, I'm not supposed to be laughing. I'm supposed to be walking up on stage to hit him. All right, I can still do it. I can still make it happen.
No, I did low key think that because I was like, okay, it's the Oscars, they're all actors. The angle that I saw the replay, it looked like, you know how in fight scenes and even in wrestling, like they'll make the
It didn't even
aim
look like he made contact.
but you heard the smack, but then he's Will has since apologized. It's just like, first of all, it's just definitely a mess. And for the messy couple of Hollywood, it's on brand.
I thought we were going to what's the word? I thought we were benching the Oscars, canceling the Oscars. Weren't we doing that at one time?
They did it last year, I believe. Last year they canceled the Oscars because
is
there
this
was no
okay to
representation.
bring back everybody, because drama tracks everybody. So is this a way to make it relevant again? Because
it could be. This is still a relatively new story, right? When you really think about it, the Oscars just happened on Sunday. Twitter, social media has been giving their opinions since Sunday evening. Today is Tuesday. I would not be surprised if by later this week or early into next week, we have like this full op-ed that explains what the situation was and then how the Oscars have benefited, i.e. people have watched it or people watched it, people have talked about it, it's the most tweeted thing, etc., etc.
101 controversy.
I would not be surprised. On that day, Jackie and I are going to wrap up this Channel Pro. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with our guest of the day. We have Bermuda's first neuropsychologist, Dr. Samantha O'Bannon. She is backstage, and Jackie and I are excited to talk about all things brain related. We hope you're ready. Jackie and I will be right back after this commercial break.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza Hut and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. If you're just joining us, please take a minute to share this episode wherever you're watching, because we have Dr. Samantha O'Bannon backstage. She is a neuropsychologist, and Jackie and I are ready to discuss mental health, but from a different perspective. So without further ado, let's bring in Dr. Sam. Sam, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Sam, for this I don't know, I'm just going to put this out there as a disclaimer already. I've known Samantha since I was a tiny tot back in the day. So I will try my best to refer to her by her title, doctor. But if you hear me say Sam, that's just because we're personal friends. Now, Sam, let's jump right into why you actually chose neuropsychology in the first place, because it's not the most popular or even the most talked about type of psychology.
Yeah. Honestly, this is a really lengthy answer, but to try to shorten it, I had a project or like an assignment in college. I actually went to college to do anesthesiology, hated biology, but loved all things neuro. And so in effort to like switch around my majors and just figure out like, how can I still get to med school, but then, be involved a little bit with the biology side, I switched to psychology. Long story short, there was a project that we had where we had to research different aspects of psychology, and I just found it. I don't remember exactly how I was researching, found this thing that was like neuropsychology. I'm intrigued. I only care about the brain anyway. And it just blossomed from there. So I started pursuing neuropsychology probably like my junior year of undergrad. Going to different like summer research programs, going to different programs, like I mentioned already, and doing like brain cutting and like brain labs and neuropsychology labs and like these really, famous psychology labs. And I haven't stopped. I love it. So
I love that.
So congratulations, you are Bermuda's first. How does it feel?
Thank you. Honestly, I don't know. It comes in waves. Like sometimes I don't feel like there's anything special. I'm just like, oh, whatever. I'm just another person, like I'm just going home. I'm going home to all these people that I knew, people that I haven't met yet, Jackie. But then there are other moments where it comes in waves where it really hits me. And I say this not in a negative way, but sometimes I feel the burden. And what I mean by that is like feeling the burden of being the first, meaning this is not just like, oh, I'm in California. This is an ordinary job that I've chosen, an ordinary career. I can do this. There are others like me out there. So I can go to people if I needed to ask a question or like whatever the case is. But here I'm like, wow, I'm not only the first, I'm the only person. We need this specialty so badly. There's so many people that have reached out to me that want assessments. And I'm now trying to figure out, okay, I have to set boundaries. I can't see everybody at the same time, or I'm going to burn myself out, or I won't be able to do a great job on this case. And I just want to help so badly and contribute to everyone's quality of life that sometimes it's a little overwhelming. Because I just want it. I want everybody to get the help that they would need. You know, I feel like Bermudians, like we're so prideful of Bermuda, and I love Bermuda. And there's so many different specialties, especially in medicine, that I feel like we deserve to have, like we're qualified to have. We have individuals, but as we know, a lot of times people go away. I was one of them, and we don't come back. So it's time.
So now, Sam, what exactly is neuropsychology? Because I mean, sure, okay, the neuro part's the brain part. Psychology, we talk about that a lot because it's one of those social sciences that gets a lot of love. But for those of us that are like really trying to wrap our head around what neuropsychology is, what's the best way for you to describe it to us?
The short answer is I specialize in brain and behavior relationships. So how whatever is going on with the brain is going to manifest itself in our daily lives, whether that is in education, academically, or if it's in a work sense, or whatever the case is. That's the short, brief version. Now, it gets more complicated. I joke around that, you know, one of my best friends, Shay Kanes, she's been with me through this whole journey. And like, she does not know what I do still. She asks me questions all the time, and I just stare at her like, how long have we been friends? So it can get really complicated because it depends on the setting, what exactly a neuropsychologist does and what they're responsible for. There are different duties if I'm in, for example, a medical setting where I can be seeing individuals with brain injury or perhaps like neurodegenerative disorders. It could be like epilepsy or something that's more long-term. And with that context, I may be working alongside of the neurologist or the neuroradiologist, and we form a treatment team to then inform however this disease process is affecting the brain right now and trying to localize that point of injury. Or I could be in a school setting where I'm getting lots of referrals from like elementary schools or middle schools, high schools, any school really. And it's kind of like a step up from a school psychology evaluation, where school psychologists are amazing. They can tell you that there's a need. They can tell you that, you know, in this particular area, a kid is not functioning appropriately. But brief analogy, I like talking in analogies. Whereas a school psychologist, if you think about it in the context of like farming, they can look at the farm and be like, well, this part of the plot needs to be redone. This part has a disease process or whatever. Like, you know, this part isn't growing as well as the rest. A neuropsychologist can get underneath and analyze the soil. So for me, I can go in and be like, okay, well, let's look at all of these different cognitive domains and figure out exactly why we're seeing this learning weakness, you know, what's contributing to it, and then be able to provide diagnoses to then go into the school and just be like, here are some accommodations that could be helpful. So it's a long answer.
There was a perfect answer. It wasn't long at all.
Good. Well, I tried to shorten it. It was really long.
But I wish I had my notepicks. I'm just like, another question, another question, another question. And I'm going to start off with one, which is basically, ideally, how many neuropsychologists could the island benefit from having? Because you listed off a few different examples of where your expertise can be utilized.
That's a hard answer.
Right.
Definitely a few, that's for sure. It would be great if there were at least 3 of us, because that way everybody can have like their own specialty in terms of the population. So for example, even though I have been trained to a certain extent with like lifespan, which includes the entire lifespan, that's what that would mean. My specialty is in pediatrics. My specialty is school age. So going from, the littles, maybe like that 3 to 5 range, all the way up until college. That's where I'm specializing in. But again, going back to what I said before, in terms of feeling that burden, not in a negative sense, but now that I'm here and I'm the only one, I'm having to stretch to lifespan again, because where else would people go? So if there was somebody else who took certain specialty areas, like, oh, there's somebody here that specializes in aging population, or there's somebody else that specializes in, I don't know, like neuro-oncology. So dealing with people who have like cancer diagnoses and what that disease process looks like in the brain, because there are certain neuropsych profiles that come out of certain disorders and conditions, that would be amazing.
Now, I want to actually just pinpoint on your specialty. So you said school age children. And I know one of the things that Jack and I have talked about, and just like in our personal conversations and on air, is this idea of, mental wellness and how it impacts how, when we are mentally ill, how that impacts the whole society. So like, what are some ways that we can benefit from having someone like you at the schools working directly with the teachers and the psychologists in the school system?
Yeah. Wow, you guys have really great questions. How it can best benefit like our schools, community, everything else. I grew up in that generation, and we're in the same generation, but I make myself sound old when I say that. Just thought about that. Where we were always begging for people to return to Island so that we had local access to resources, right? There are many areas where neuropsychology is considered a standard of care and the quality of care in the US. So we're dealing in like sports concussion. That's like a huge thing. Side note, I was actually like involved in the formulation of those return to play laws and everything else when they were starting to form with the concussions in NFL. Epilepsy, TBIs, aging population. There's so many different areas. So in terms of if I had to pinpoint it to the school, how can that be helpful? I think it would help to, I guess, increase the speed at which our evaluations are done. I've had the privilege of speaking with a couple school psychologists on Island, and they're doing such a phenomenal job, but there aren't many of them. I think there's only about 5 for the whole island. And that's a lot. There's a lot of different assessments that need to be done every year. And unfortunately, if you only have 5 people, sometimes you don't get to everybody. So it can help to sort of speed up that turnaround. And also assist with the school psychologist if they need additional information. So if they've done their evaluation and if they're realizing, okay, like we've done what we can, we've kind of like tapped our resources and we're not exactly sure what else is going on and how else we can help this child in school, then they can kind of like tag team me in. I can do a more comprehensive assessment and then we can all work together to be a part of that treatment team. So ultimately, it just improves the quality of care that we have. It improves the access that we have. And the obvious point is it increases all of our knowledge in terms of like those brain and behavior relationships, like the strengths and weaknesses in our brain and what it actually means, which is where it's really cool. It's like my nerdy side.
So you talk about assessment, evaluations. What exactly does that look like? And how do you use that information to start a treatment plan?
Great questions. So it looks like this. I guess I can give you kind of like the general overview. Although no 2 assessments are exactly the same, I individualize and customize, if you will, every assessment to the specific needs and the referral question of that individual. So typically, right now I'm offering, which I probably will keep offering forever. I offer like these free 15-minute consultations just to discuss what the needs are, what the point of the assessment is, the referral questions. And then from there, I sort of like stage it out. So we usually have about like an hour-and-a-half intake appointment where I really go into all of the history. I'm asking a lot of questions that's already helping to like form my diagnostic conclusions or formulations. And then once we've done our intake session, everything else, we have testing. Now, it looks different for everybody. For example, for children, it takes place over 2 full days. It's very long. It'll go from 9 to 3 on 2 separate days, where we're doing a lot of like paper and pencil tests. We're on the iPads because a lot of my stuff is on the iPad and technology savvy here. we're doing like playing with blocks or building towers. I'm asking questions. We're doing little games. And fun fact, with the child evaluations, they're some of my favorite because we play video games. And believe it or not, video games are a great assessment tool for me. I come from a training background where, especially in my office in California, we feel like as a child neuropsychologist, if you're not playing video games with your children, you're not really getting good data. Bias, but whatever. So we're playing video games during our breaks and everything else, which is amazing. You know, obviously with the adults, if they want to play video games, we can, but we're not. We're just doing more work. But once an evaluation is finished in terms of like the assessment portion, then what I do is I take time, score up everything. I'm going and, you know, trying to gather aggregate data. I'm talking to the treatment team, or if it's a child, I'm talking to some of the school individuals or school personnel support staff. And then I'm going to have a feedback session. So the feedback session is an opportunity for me to just basically spell out all the data, explain to everybody what's going on, what's happening in the brain, why they're experiencing whatever they're experiencing. If it's a child, I also have a child feedback session, which is one of my faves because I get to kind of break it down to their language and be like, here are all the amazing things about your brain. Here are all of these great strengths over here. And here are some things that were a little harder for you, but here's why. And the good news is that we can sort of fix all of these things. And so that's kind of like the general process. Once all of the feedbacks and everything have been finalized, then it comes the report. Once we have the report, we're able to really contribute to the conversation. And, you know, because the report takes a little bit longer, I usually give a lot of that information during the feedback sessions anyway. And I'm typically in that process, especially if it's within the school, involving the school personnel at that point as well, obviously with informed consent, to be able to kind of give them a rundown of, you know, what the profile looks like, what's happening, and how it can contribute to a conversation for supports in school. So it's a pretty lengthy process. It can take a month or several months for the whole thing to be finished.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I didn't appreciate that it's like not a snap of your fingers, but I mean, most things in life, when they're done right, they don't happen overnight. I wanted to just pinpoint, because in your assessment process, you did mention video games. And I know from our generation, it was definitely playing all those video games can kill your brain. Like, you shouldn't be playing that. And I think it's one fun that you're doing that. But how is, like, what's the importance, or how are you able to use that to kind of help the children, and how does it differ for the adults? Because you mentioned, like, with the adults, you guys don't do that much, but like, what could be the benefit, and what is the benefit of the video game part specifically?
So yes, we did have that information. I mean, we still do. It's like, oh, like too much screen time. We don't want, to be honest, I actually wrote an article about this recently. But there is a lot of research that does show there are a lot of negative effects of premature screen time, too much screen time before certain ages. You know, if we use the wonderful American Academy of Pediatrics, they recommend that screen time only be within certain amounts, and not before age like 3 or something like that. So there is still that downside. However, all video games are not created equal. I will say that. So what you can use, and what I encourage my parents to use, especially if you have a child who's really resistant and they need learning support, is going into educational games. I don't know if you guys remember, but like when we were younger, we had a lot of those like new age video games coming out that were all about learning. There was like Jumpstart Academy and Zoom Beanies and all of these things that I still promote to this day because they're amazing and they've actually have research behind it. And they can be really helpful in terms of like engaging your child to participate in these skills that are required to improve a certain academic function, when all of their other friends are playing video games. So in terms of the benefits, we see that video games, again, certain video games and not all day long, can be helpful from a social arena, especially with COVID-19 and everything that we're still going through. I joke around that we're on like our junior year of like this pandemic. It can help with the social skills that may have been lost. There's a lot of kids that, if you think about it, like they didn't start school until second grade. They weren't in school until about second grade. They don't have a lot of these social skills. And a lot of them are using these video games to converse with each other back and forth on platforms. So it can be helpful socially. For me, what I look for, not only am I trying to establish a good rapport because I feel like if you don't have a good rapport with your clients, or if people don't trust you, you're not going to get information, right? And so I'm really big on establishing that rapport, on making sure that every individual I work with feels heard and feels seen, so that I can truly be the most beneficial to them as possible. But not only does it help us establish that rapport because they're excited and they love video games, and now it's not as boring to come and sit in an office all day, but it gives me so much information. I can learn about like their social skills, whether or not they have good social reciprocity. Do they know how to take turns? Are they good at encouraging other people, or are they just going to talk trash the whole time, or shut down, or kind of be in this isolated frame of mind and just playing by themselves and more parallel alongside of me? I can also get an idea of like visual spatial abilities, like how good are they with hand-eye coordination? There's a lot of little things that I'm looking for within my video game play that obviously they have no idea that I'm looking at, but I'm assessing everything.
I love that. I want to give you a kid
Yeah.
again so I could do a video game assessment.
Do you have a
You
turn?
can still come. I'll do video games.
Perfect.
Terri, you play video games? I never need to play video games.
I'm a sim girl. I love the
I mean,
Sims.
obviously, yes.
Ooh.
But Dr. Samantha,
Yes.
do you ever turn it off? Like, I feel like you walk into a classroom knowing that this is the child that you're supposed to assess, and then you realize that I need to look at that child as well. Oh, let me come back to this other child as well. Or are you walking down the street and you see some type of interaction? Do you ever turn it off?
Partially. I've not actually thought about that before. I guess the short answer, a lot of people, they automatically say this to psychologists in general, like, oh, are you always assessing me? Like, oh, you're probably analyzing me. And to be honest, we're not. We're too tired. We try to assess people all day long. But I will say that those clinical skills, why I said partially, is like those clinical skills, they never stop.
Mhm.
So I do notice that even in conversation with my husband, for example, he's like, stop talking to me like that. Like, stop. I don't even remember what he says. It's not even like correct grammar. It's like, stop psychologizing me or something. Like, it's something super strange where he's just like, stop talking to me like a psychologist. I'm like, I'm not. This is like how I speak, like I do analyze certain conversations. I do notice certain situations, or I hear about certain articles, or I'll hear about like an accident or something that happened in the paper. And my first thought is, oh my goodness, they need an assessment. I wonder how their brain is doing right now. Like there's a certain element of it that doesn't turn off, because I tend to be, I say this lightly and I'm sighing with it, because I feel like being an empath is such a buzzword right now. Like everybody's an empath and everybody wants to be an empath, but I am genuinely an empath. Like I literally feel the emotional weight and the emotions of other people to the point where it causes me physical pain. And so there are times where if I hear about something, or if I learn that something has happened to someone or whatever it is, I am like, I absorb that at such a level. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm heartbroken. I need to reach out. Like if I could, I would offer everything for free, because I'd be like, I'll just do an assessment just to make sure you're okay. And I get to give you the data. Don't worry. But like, that's not sustainable. So yes and no.
I do ask only because like playing tennis, obviously completely different field. Going between competing and playing, I can't turn it off all the time. Like I'll be playing somebody else, and
Yes.
they toss high enough. I'm like, get your toss higher, and I'm like, you're playing. This is already. Turn it off. So I wonder if other people are able to turn it off in their fields, or am I alone in not being able to completely turn it off?
I don't think you're alone. I think when you're really good at something and you're really passionate about something and it absorbs your life because it takes up that much space, then you can't, right? It becomes a part of you. That's a part of your identity. So at some level, if you're at that level of tennis, then you're always going to have that feedback, because that's what you've been like born and bred into, You've spent so much time and effort working on those. If we want to bring it to the brain, those neuronal connections are stronger. So of course, it's going to be the immediate pathway that your brain takes.
I love how she just brought it back to the brain for the conversation one, but then it just makes you think about it. Oh yes, that makes so much sense.
Yeah,
like I feel like now I'm just going to be thinking about all my neural connections. Like like I know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna be sharp. Thanks to Dr. Sam. I'm really sharp today.
You sound like an expert.
I
You
am
sound like an
ready.
expert.
Now, Dr. Sam, as we wrap up, can you let the audience know how they can maybe reach out to you to find out
Mhm.
about like the free assessments, how they can work with you, and are you able to work with Bermudians while you're overseas? Because I do feel like sometimes that's one question that we have when we know that there's Bermudians overseas that do this type of work, but
Right.
they're not on the island.
So let me try to go in order and remember all of the questions. So how you can get in contact with me, several ways, but the easiest way, I do have a website, drsamim.com, kind of like greetings in ham. Yeah, Dr. Seuss. So drsamim.com, it has a lot of information. It goes over a lot of FAQs in terms of finding out like what is an assessment and how can this be helpful. It answers all of that on there. There's also places on there where you can schedule that free consultation, or you can just send an email to me through the website. So that's an easy way to contact me. Honestly, you can contact me anyway, social media. If you know me personally, just hit me up. It's okay, message me. And I also have like a local email, like Dr. Sam at chrysalisbermuda.com, since that's where I do my assessments through when I'm on island. So those are all different ways that I can be contacted in order to get an assessment. What else did you ask me?
Working together. So like when because you live in California, but Bermudians might be interested.
Woo, working memory went offline. Okay, so technically, especially with the pandemic, a lot of us did start to do assessments online, but it's not ideal. So there's a certain portion of the evaluation that we may be able to do like over Zoom. Not ideal. I don't prefer it. I would suggest just waiting until I'm on island. I will be on island every quarter over the next year. So I'm actually leaving this week. Sad story. But I'll be back in June. I'll be back in September and also in December, and then we'll talk. But I have had a couple individuals actually call me and they were like, well, I don't want to wait until June. What if we fly to California and come see you out there? I mean, that's always an option, especially for those who want to make the trip. But I mean, you can also wait. That's part of, what the whole purpose of this would be, to be able to provide that convenience for us as Bermudians and for locals. Because I mean, let's be honest, like nobody wants to have to travel. Traveling is a luxury. It's fun, but nobody wants to have to travel just to get something that they need. So I will be back. Spots are filling up pretty quickly. However, I'll do what it takes to try to fit people in, or we'll just have to kind of extend that a little bit. But that would be my response to that. I could keep talking.
It. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I feel like we'll have to have a part 2 because Dr. Sam actually has a coloring book that's out there, and we have like so much more that we can talk about. I did it, but I was looking at the time. I was like, well, we're gonna have to wrap up soon. Well, Sam, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad that we were able to get you during this first visit because I knew that California time zone was not going to be our friend.
Nope, it would not have been. I don't even know that math. I would have been like 2:30, 3 o'clock. False.
Exactly. Sam, make sure you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you both so much.
Bye. Jack and I are going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back to get your thoughts on our conversation with Dr. Sam. So make sure you drop them in the comments right now. And our feel good vibe of the day is trivia time with Terri. So we're actually going to get Jackie's brain a little bit thinking. Let's see how strong some of her neural connections are when it comes to the trivia. Because these last few weeks, y'all, we're going to see. We're going to see after this commercial break.
Okay.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Adiana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. If you're just joining us, we wrapped up our conversation with Bermuda's first neuropsychologist, Dr. Samantha O'Bannon. Let us know your thoughts on that conversation in the comments below. Jackie, real quick, what are your thoughts?
I loved it. So I like conversations like that. My only issue is we ran out of time because as she's giving information, obviously information provokes more questions, right? More inquiries. And I was just like, oh, and typically in a different setting, I would have been cutting her off to be like, wait, pause, go more on that one. Wait, no, I need more information on this one. And I'm sitting here like, oh, we gotta stick to the script. If not, we're gonna run out of time. So I'm excited for her to come back because I have more questions, obviously.
And then knowing that she's going to be back on at least 3 more times this year is a great thing for those that maybe just joined into the conversation and haven't really thought about how something like this could benefit them, their children, someone in their life. I think, it's going to take us a while for people to like digest all this information and be like, okay, how can I benefit this? Maybe I should just do an assessment.
Like, how can I get her to come and not really assess, but look over my programs? And I feel like she can actually add to the programs that I have.
I feel like she absolutely could, especially with the young children.
Can I take you for a coffee and just sit there and pick your brain and have a conversation? Or, go sit in the park. I don't know.
I feel like you absolutely could. Sam is the best. Like,
trap her on a boat. All right, we're going on a boat now. Talk.
no talk. And she would. Sam is a talker. She absolutely have. And I think everyone can see that she was super excited to share the information that she had with us because, as she mentioned, it is something that we could benefit from. And I just think even if we were to get 2 other women or men in the space to, join the charge, I feel like that would be a benefit. And it's like she's in the comments. She says, thank you. So if you're not already following Dr. Sam on social media, make sure you do it. Actually, when I realized what her social handle was, I just immediately thought about Dr. Seuss. I was like, this girl, that's literally Sam.
I like it though, because sometimes those books be having your mind going ching ching. Not these sound effects.
No, I feel like Jacky is trying to like distract me from the fact that she has trivia to test her neuro connections.
I was preparing myself.
She will not get out of it. So if this is the first time you're joining us for our trivia time, all you have to do is try to guess the answer before Jacky. And if you do so correctly, make sure you email us at the email address you see on the screen, engage@gooddaybermuda.com, because Jacky and I have something special planned for our 1-year anniversary, which is taking place in June. So you want to make sure that as best you can, you try to guess the answer before Jacky. Now we're going to start off with music because even though last week, no, we're going to start off with music. I was going to go to the acting one because of the Oscars, but okay, we'll do it. We'll do it last. Okay. So what country singer collaborated with rapper Nelly to record Over and Over?
Oh my God.
I feel like you know this because this is a popular song in the 2000s. What country singer collaborated with rapper Nelly to record Over and Over? He's also a very popular country singer.
I know. It's not Cyrus. It's not Miley Cyrus's dad.
It's absolutely not him.
One. Black hat. I'm thinking black cowboy hat. It's not.
You know what he looks like.
Oh my God. What is his name?
And the audience, either they're stumped or they're just as bad as you. They can't get the guy's name, but they know what he looks like.
No, it's not Tim. Oh my God.
What country singer collaborated with rapper Nelly to record Over and Over Again?
Just tell me.
You had the first name, right? Tim McGraw.
Okay, I couldn't get the last.
Too bad. Unfortunate. You didn't get it, neither did the audience, so I stumped you guys.
I feel like I got like half a point because I got Tim.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not how this goes. So going back to video games with Dr. Sam, we talked about how video games can help with her assessment. So this one should be easy for you to get. What video game console did Nintendo release in 2006?
Nintendo Wii. Is it
yes, girl, you got that one.
Was it the Wii? I had to remember where I was in the world.
Where she was in the world helps her get the answers. I can't for sometimes. I really can.
Because I was in Bermuda when we got it, and I had to like picture myself playing with it.
With your Wii. Last question. It's about a movie.
Movie.
Little Miss Sunshine depicts a family driving from Albuquerque to California so that the youngest child can compete in what?
Not the debutante. What is it? It's Beyonce's song, Pretty Hurts. I remember, what is it?
You have to say the answer. I can't say the answer.
Pageants? But what are the pageants?
Yes, a beauty pageant, girl. Oh man, she can't.
I'm like, I want to say teen pageant, but because what happened as soon as you said Little Miss Sunshine, I thought of the little girl in her yellow dress and how she walks, and her mean uncle, which is actually played by the same character as Bad Santa.
Oh, so you knew the movie. You just
I know the movie right off. Like, I actually pictured the mom, and yeah.
Well, I will say, Jackie, for the first one this week, the last week in March, you stumped the audience. Well, you beat the audience every single time. They actually didn't even get it. So shout outs to you for being able. Oh, Carlton Fleming did come in a little bit late, but he got it as well. Shout outs to you for building those strong neuro connections, girl. You go. We'll see how you do on Thursday, and we'll see how I do tomorrow. As always, Jackie and I hope that today's Feel Good Vibe of the Day has you ready to make it a great one. Thank you so much for watching and engaging with this episode of Good Day Bermuda, which is supported by Pete's House and Ariana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert, and we trust we'll see you tomorrow for more Feel Good conversations. Until the next episode, peace and have a good day, Bermuda.